Welcome to a Night at the Apollo analysis, Michael Jackson live in New York City in 2002, part 2. Welcome, Michael Jackson fans. Okay, so the last video, we took an introductory overview look at Michael Jackson's performance at the Harlem Apollo in New York City on the 24th of April 2002, where he performed Dangerous, Black or White, and Heal the World, and they also played the History Tour teaser on the big screen behind. Now, today, we're going to look in depth, deep, and I'm going to reveal some exclusives to you today. Okay, so Brad Buxer did perform. You can't see it from the footage on C-SPAN, but he did perform. He came on from a platform this way, and he had his sound station, all his keyboards on it. And this is the same thing which happened in Munich 1999. Various musicians and bands come on, and I think this is more of a Live Aid thing from back in the day. They just slide on the musicians when they were ready to go. And so that's what there was so much setup issues. It took a long time to introduce Michael Jackson for this show, as we looked at the last video, because they had to set all of this up. Okay, let's go straight in. We're going to look at everything today. Let's talk about vocals. Okay, now, totally ignoring interludes. So we're not going to talk about in between the songs, because that's not so important. Let's talk about the songs proper. Michael Jackson's microphone during Heal the World was switched on 9 bars. Now, a bar is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, count like that. Anyway, it was switched on 9 bars after the You and For Me section of Heal the World. So towards the end, when it goes into You and For Me on repeat, 9 bars after that, the microphone was switched on. And from that point on, Michael Jackson sang the ending of the song live. Now, every other part of the show was not sang live. So that was the only point when it was switched on, except for in between the songs. So Black or White, there was not one part of that was sang live. Dangerous, there was not one part of that was sang live. 75% of Heal the World was not live. But 9 bars after that point, You and For Me, they switched on the microphone and Michael Jackson sang. And it sounded great. And so there's a little bit of info about the vocals. The backing vocals were not live as well, but there were multiple performers on the stage. So it wasn't just a case of him standing like the impression in Dangerous is, it's just him and his dancers. Well, that's not the case. Okay, let's take a look at the music. So obviously, an important thing about this show was Dave Navarro of the Red Hot Chili Peppers came and performed Black or White with Michael Jackson, and I thought it was brilliant. In fact, this was probably one of my favourite mixes of Black or White ever. It really is cool, and the guitar solo is brilliant. So I think that's really, really good. But okay, let's talk about music. There's a couple of such interesting things. Okay, so the full band wasn't there. Brad Buxer, Dave Navarro, but it was still to track, mainly to track, and they played over the track. Usually what happens on the tours is it's mainly live with a click track, but this time it was the other way around. It was mainly not live, and they played on top of it. So let me give you an exclusive right now. The ending of Black or White, take a listen to the ending, the outro of Black or White. You may have heard it before, because it sounds very much like they've used the outro of the MTV Music Awards and they've edited it together. And that was based on the Bucharest outro. And then they played on top of that. So Brad Buxer's playing like a keyboard bassy kind of thing, and then the guitarist is coming on. Now, I'm almost certain about that. Now, if it's to track, then that causes trouble, because how can Michael Jackson end the song organically? How can he just go like that and it ends? I think that Brad Buxer solved this. Brad, sorry if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. Basically, he had a trigger, which just basically, when Michael ended it, he just pressed it, it cut the track and just triggered an ending, bam. And if you listen to it carefully, you'll hear it sounds odd, the ending. It works, but it doesn't sound like his normal endings because they didn't have the full band to end it. So Brad comes in with the pre-recorded ending, a synthetic keyboard sound, it sounds like, but they played on top of a pre-recorded music piece, outro, from the MTV Music Awards. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear it based on Bucharest. Now, there is precedent for this. During This Is It, the original This Is It, not the edit which was released on Blu-ray and DVD, you will hear that, I'm talking about the AEG released footage that they used, and I briefly touched on this on my Sky News interview, that they used Munich, They Don't Care About Us, for the break in They Don't Care About Us whilst rehearsing for This Is It. So they used a previous concert during a rehearsal for a new concert, and it was probably a temporary thing. They just kind of left it in and say, look, this is the kind of thing it's going to be. Maybe the musical director didn't have access to, maybe he didn't have the time to produce something, but what happened, what was broadcast on This Is It during the interlude of They Don't Care About Us was not what Michael performed during the rehearsals. And you can see that it was the Munich concert, it was a Munich interlude. So same thing, the outro of Black or White at this show was pre-recorded from a different show, or they just used source material that they used for a different show, and then they played on top. It worked pretty well. I really do like it. As I said, Black or White on this version is one of my favorites. With regards to Dangerous, Dangerous was 100% track. So there was no live elements to that. I'm pretty certain. Maybe Brad was playing backstage at the side of the stage, but I don't think so. If you hear it, it's just completely to track. The metallic elements, the percussion metallic elements are very loud. It sounds pretty cool, actually. Pretty good job. Okay, Heal the World. So this had the most live elements to it because basically after Brad Buxer's workstation was brought on, he played the electronic keyboards as he usually did on the History Tour and Dangerous tours for Heal the World. He played his usual introduction while Michael Jackson was getting ready. And you can hear him, he plays his keyboards throughout the whole song. And he plays it really well. It's a beautiful song. Now, Michael Jackson, it's going on and it's going on and it's going on. And Michael says, Brad, come on, end it. It's going on too long. But as I said previously, this is pre-recorded. And so they can't just end it. So you have to wait until, however they've edited it, it runs its course. Staging. Okay, so if you watch the Michael Jackson concert, sometimes you don't get the full picture because things happened before the cameras started rolling. And a lot of this is to do with staging. So at a Michael show, for example, usually they have the warm-up acts don't perform on the same stage as such as Michael. They perform on a cover, and then the covers are removed just before Michael Jackson comes onto the stage. So he has a perfect stage. Now, something very interesting, I'll give you an exclusive about this show. This show in the Apollo, they completely changed the Apollo stage for Michael Jackson. They extended the stage by at least 10 feet, probably much more than that, and they raised the stage slightly, and they basically added their own cover on top of it, and the extension forward gave them the ability to add the two wind machines for Black or White in the show. So if you look, you will see Michael's traditional wind machines. Now, they're not usually there at the Apollo. So they basically came down and they totally renovated the whole stage so that Michael Jackson performed on a stage that he was happy with. And also the dimensions of the stage for Michael Jackson would have been small. Michael Jackson used to perform on stages like that, but in his later life, he performs on ready-made, gigantic stages. So that's another reason why they extended it. But one of the primary reasons is just for the wind machines. He wanted them underneath to give the wind and smoke effect. And I mean, for example, it's a lot better than the World Music Awards where they had fans facing him. The effect isn't the same. So they actually rebuilt the whole stage for Michael. And also you can see, because if you look at a normal theatre, the boxes are not usually well onto the stage because Michael was performing in front of the box, and that's because they extended it. Now, if you look at the Apollo Theatre, go look at the Apollo Theatre now. It has been renovated since. You'll know what I mean. The stage is curved, and before the stage was curved, and when Michael performed, the stage was straight. Another reason for this was probably Secret Service. When Bill Clinton, former President Clinton, has serious Secret Service, and for security they probably raised the stage slightly. And during the show, Secret Service were on the stage, but not for Michael's performance, which is quite interesting. They weren't directly on the stage. Anyway, so the stage was reconstructed for Michael Jackson. The fans were added, and the fans aren't there anymore, and the stage is very different now, and it was different before. So that's really, really cool. It shows you his power, that, you know, many times a stage was created for Michael Jackson. Another great thing for this show was the pyrotechnics. Now you can take a look at the C-SPAN footage where they essentially have a pyrotechnic on a string, and once it explodes, they pull it off. That's because the pyrotechnics were not built into the stage. With Michael Jackson, usually they're built into the architecture of the performance space, but on this occasion they were on the stage and they were pulled off. So take a look at the video, because you'll see the pyrotechnics pulled off. There were also pyrotechnics in black or white, also with the same principle. They were pulled off the stage, and they were really, really good actually. By the way, a word about Michael Jackson's pyrotechnics. You will not believe the TV does not present the atmosphere at all. The heat of those pyrotechnics are so hot, you feel like you're burning. And so Michael, it would have been crazy to, you really, really feel it. And anyone in the crowd, you know, within 30 meters, the flames are unbelievable. So there's a little bit about that. Okay, let's take a little look at costume and a couple of other interesting things about props. So if you take a look at the gun which was used, it was actually a prop which smoked, which was unusual. On the History Tour, they didn't have that. They just had a prop gun. So this was a prop which actually smoked when he shot it, which was a really good addition. You might also notice that Michael Jackson's shoes, he's not wearing his usual loafers. Now, I can give you a possible reason for that. He hurt his ankle, and maybe it gave him more support. He heard it a few days earlier when he performed on the 20th American Bandstand anniversary. However, it's quite unusual. Very rarely did he not wear his loafers. He didn't wear them on a couple of occasions, but we'll look at that later. So he didn't wear his normal shoes. He wore like a going out evening wear shiny shoe. He also wore long trousers. Another thing for die-hard fans was his shirt. As you know, Michael Jackson looked a bit bigger than usual, which was good. It looked like the shirt was extended slightly at the front so it could tuck in, because usually it would be above the belt line, cut above the belt line, so it was like a mock shirt. But it looked like they'd add a little extension so it could tuck in to his trousers, which was unusual, because if you look at Michael Jackson and Friends in 1999, you see that the shirt goes up. And that's just a design feature, so when it goes up, it doesn't come out and stay out. But on this show, maybe because of his weight, they amended it slightly, and they extended that shirt so he could tuck it in. And yeah, there's a little bit about the costume. In addition to this, during Heal the World, he wore his History Tour history jacket without the gold badge. It looked really, really great. He wore his Madison Square Garden white gold pads on his legs as well during Heal the World. It looked like they reused some of the costumes as well for the section of Heal the World, because there was a lot of ethnic costume on the stage, and it looked like they'd used Wanna Be Starting Something costumes from Madison Square Garden in the show. Not 100%, but I'm thinking that's what they did. They definitely reused the pads, and they reused his gold, his History Tour microphone as well, and it was a really great show. Finally, you might not know this, but Diana Ross did join him on his last performance. Her and her children came on the stage for Heal the World, and that's just magical that his last performance was with Diana Ross, not counting his small appearance at the Brit Awards later, at the World Music Awards later. I mean, if you can't count these performances because Michael Jackson sang on piano at the Dorchester Hotel. That doesn't count as a performance. It was in public, but it was just an appearance, and he just sang a little bit. Okay, right. I hope you enjoyed the analysis of the Apollo, A Night at the Apollo, and we're going to look at all the shows in detail. Take a look at the blog, because I'm going to put links to the footage that we do have, and there will be all the details and links on that blog. And please subscribe. I hope you enjoyed these. We're going to do commentary and analysis of everything. I thank you. See you soon.